The first girl who discovered the Duke's secret disappeared before winter ended. After that, Isabella Vale decided pretending to be blind was the safest way to survive Ravenshire Palace. She arrived at Ravenshire Palace just before winter. The carriage wheels dragged through thick mud while cold rain struck the windows like tiny stones. Isabella Whitmore kept both hands folded tightly in her lap, her fingernails pressing into her palms hard enough to hurt. Pain helped her stay focused. Fear made people careless. She could not afford to be careless. Not here. Not inside Ravenshire Palace. The place people whispered about in market streets, the palace where servants disappeared, the palace ruled by Duke Lucian Ravenshire. A man nobody truly understood. Some called him cursed. Some called him cruel. Others said he buried his own emotions the same way the palace buried its dead. But Isabella did not come to Ravenshire for stories. She came to survive. She lowered her eyes as the carriage stopped. "We're here," the driver muttered. The palace gates slowly opened. She heard chains dragging. She heard guards shouting. She heard the sound of horses somewhere beyond the courtyard. And then, silence, the kind of silence that made a person feel watched. Isabella grabbed her cane carefully before stepping out into the rain. She paused deliberately. She tilted her head slightly, her eyes unfocused perfectly. She had practiced blindness for nearly 2 years. Every movement, every blink, every hesitation. It started after her father lost everything. Gambling, debts, alcohol, anger. She still remembered the night he sold her mother's wedding ring for whiskey. She remembered her younger brother crying from hunger. She remembered learning something painful about the world. People ignored blind girls. They spoke freely around them. They underestimated them. And sometimes they spared them. So Isabella became invisible. She became blind. Not fully, not truly, but enough to survive. She counted each step carefully as servants guided her into the palace. "Poor thing," one maid whispered. "The Duke hired a blind archivist?" Another murmured. "Maybe he pities her." No, he did not pity anyone. Isabella already knew that. She had researched him before coming here. Every rumour, every scandal, every disappearance. And one thing became clear. Duke Lucian Ravenshire trusted nobody. That made him dangerous. But it also made him lonely. The palace doors opened with a groan. Warm air wrapped around her skin. The scent of candle wax and old books filled the entrance hall. She heard boots approaching, slow, heavy, controlled. Every servant instantly fell silent. Isabella felt it before anybody spoke, the shift in atmosphere. Power entering the room. Then came his voice. Deep calm, cold, "Leave us." The servants obeyed immediately. She lowered her gaze further, pretending uncertainty. His boots stopped directly before her. "You are Isabella Whitmore?" "Yes, Your Grace. Look at me." Her heartbeat stumbled. For one terrifying second, she thought he knew. But she slowly lifted her eyes without focusing on him. He remained silent, long enough to make her uncomfortable. Then quietly. "Interesting," she swallowed carefully. "Sir?" "Most people fear this palace before entering it." His voice carried something dangerous beneath the calm. "But you fear something else." A chill ran through her spine. She forced herself not to react. "I only seek employment, Your Grace." "Do you?" His tone almost sounded amused. Then he turned away. "Follow me." Lucian led her through endless corridors lit by candlelight. The palace felt less like a home and more like a fortress built to hide ghosts. Isabella counted every turn carefully. Left corridor, 12 steps, staircase downward, long hallway, fireplace at the end. She memorized everything. She had learned long ago that survival belonged to observant people, and right now, survival was all she had. The archive chamber stood beneath the eastern wing, hidden behind iron doors thick enough to survive war. Lucian opened them slowly. "This room contains centuries of Ravenshire history," he said. "Political treaties, financial records, private correspondence." His voice lowered slightly. "Some truths inside these walls could destroy powerful families." Isabella felt tension tighten inside her chest. That was exactly why she came. She believed her father's death was connected to Ravenshire dealings. He had borrowed money from palace associates shortly before he died. Then suddenly, everything collapsed. Debt collectors arrived. Strange men threatened their family. Her father was found dead near the river 3 months later. The officials called it suicide. Isabella never believed them, and now she stood inside the palace holding the answers. She adjusted her grip on the cane. "I understand, Your Grace." Lucien studied her quietly again. "Do you?" Before she could respond, he walked away. His footsteps faded into silence. Isabella finally exhaled. She hated how easily he unsettled her. There was something dangerous about intelligent men. They noticed details. Other people ignored them. But men like Lucian Ravenshire saw everything. The next few days passed carefully. Isabella worked during daylight organizing old ledgers while secretly searching for names tied to her father. She discovered hidden payment records, shipments, bribes, private accounts connected to noble families, and one name appeared repeatedly. Lord Beaumont, a wealthy political ally of the Duke. The same man who once visited her father weeks before his death. She copied every detail mentally. At night, she listened. Servants always talked, especially around someone they believed blind. "Did you hear what happened to the last maid?" "Which one?" "The one who entered the west wing after midnight." "God, stop." They found blood near the stairwell. Whispers filled the palace like smoke, but no rumour interested Isabella more than the Duchess, the former fiancée of Lucien Ravenshire. Her name was Seraphina Vale. Beautiful, rich, beloved. She died 3 years ago under mysterious circumstances. Some servants claimed heartbreak, others claimed poison. Some whispered the Duke locked himself inside her room for 3 days after her death. And one old maid swore she heard him crying through the walls. But nobody dared speak openly about it, not while he still ruled the palace. One stormy evening, Isabella remained inside the archive room long after midnight. Rain hammered the windows while thunder shook the ceiling. She knew she should leave, but she finally found something important. A black ledger hidden behind false shelving. Her fingers moved carefully across the pages, and there it was, her father's name. She leaned closer, pretending to feel the paper while secretly reading the ink. Payment transfers, debts, signed authorizations, and at the bottom of one page, Lucien Ravenshire's signature. Her stomach tightened. She turned another page quickly, then froze. Footsteps. Her pulse exploded. She immediately closed the ledger just as the archive door opened. "You disobey instructions often." Lucian's voice cut through darkness. She forced herself calm. "I lost track of time, Your Grace." Lightning flashed briefly. She could see him now, tall, dark coat, wet hair, shadows beneath tired eyes. He looked less like royalty and more like a man at war with himself. "Most people in this palace fear me," he said quietly. "You don't, should I?" Silence. Then slowly, he approached. Her heartbeat thundered. He stopped beside her, close enough for her to smell rain and smoke on his clothes. "Fear keeps people alive, Miss Whitmore." His fingers touched the closed ledger. His gaze never left her face. "Tell me, what were you searching for?" "History. History," he repeated softly. dangerous thing to search for inside Ravenshire Palace. Thunder crashed again, then suddenly screams echoed somewhere upstairs. Isabella flinched, servants shouting, doors slamming, running footsteps. Lucienne instantly moved toward the door. "Stay here." But she heard panic in the hallway, a woman crying, someone yelling for guards. Then one sentence froze the entire palace. "Lord Beaumont is dead." Lucienne's expression darkened instantly. He turned toward Isabella for one brief moment, and in that moment, she saw it. Not shock, not grief. Expectation, almost as though he knew this was coming. He left immediately. Isabella waited only seconds before following quietly. She used the cane carefully while listening to chaos around her. Servants flooded corridors. Guards rushed upstairs. Then she heard another voice. The bodies inside the West Gallery. She followed the sound carefully. Her heart pounded harder with every step. She reached the gallery entrance and stopped. Hidden behind curtains, she could smell blood. The room buzzed with panic. "Nobody leaves the palace," a guard ordered. "Seal every entrance." Isabella risked a glance. Lord Beaumont lay sprawled across marble floors, a knife buried deep in his chest. But what terrified her most was the symbol drawn beside the body in blood. A black raven. She had seen it before. On one of her father's secret letters months before his death, the exact same mark. Her breathing became uneven. Someone inside Ravenshire Palace was connected to her father's murder, and now Beaumont was dead. Suddenly another realization hit her. The Duke stood only feet away from the body, watching silently. No panic, no confusion, just cold calculation. Then, his eyes slowly lifted directly toward the curtain where she hid. Isabella's blood turned cold. He could not possibly see her in darkness. And yet, she felt caught. Lucienne dismissed the guards calmly. "Leave us." Within seconds, the gallery emptied. He walked toward the curtain slowly. "You should return to your room, Miss Whitmore." Her chest tightened. He knew. She stepped out carefully, pretending uncertainty. "I heard shouting." "And ignored my orders again?" "Someone died." "Yes." His jaw hardened slightly. "And now this palace becomes more dangerous for everyone inside it." She hesitated before speaking. "Did you know him well?" A strange expression crossed his face. Too well. Then unexpectedly, he stepped closer and lowered his voice. "Listen carefully to me." For the first time, his calm mask cracked. She saw exhaustion, anger, fear. "Whatever you think you're searching for inside this palace, stop." Her pulse quickened. "I don't understand." "No," he said quietly. "You understand more than you should." The air between them tightened dangerously. Then his hand suddenly lifted toward her face. Isabella froze. His fingers stopped inches from her eyes. "One day," he whispered, "your eyes will betray you." Her breath caught. He knew. Not fully, but enough. She stepped backward immediately. "Good night, Your Grace." She left before he could say another word. But sleep never came that night. Because for the first time since arriving at Ravenshire Palace, Isabella realized something terrifying. She was no longer just investigating the Duke. She was becoming emotionally drawn to him, and men like Lucian Ravenshire did not survive by loving people. They survived by destroying them. If this story is pulling you in already, subscribe to Candlelit Vows and comment "The Duke Knows" below. Your comments help this channel reach more lovers of emotional royal drama. And trust me, the darkest secret in Ravenshire Palace hasn't been revealed yet. The palace changed after Lord Beaumont's murder. Servants spoke in whispers now. Doors remained locked longer at night, guards doubled across the eastern wing, and everywhere Isabella walked, She felt eyes following her. Ravenshire Palace no longer felt like a place hiding secrets. It felt like a place preparing for war. Isabella sat alone inside the archive room, pretending to organize old records while her thoughts spiraled endlessly. Lucienne knew something. She was certain of it, not only about her investigation, about her blindness. His words from the gallery still haunted her. One day your eyes will betray you. No one had ever come that close to exposing her before. And yet, part of her feared something worse. Part of her feared he wasn't angry about the lie. Part of her feared he was disappointed. That frightened her more than it should have. Because feelings inside places like Ravenshire Palace were dangerous. People with power did not love safely. They consumed, they controlled, they destroyed. She should have remembered that. But every time Lucienne entered a room, logic abandoned her. The heavy archive doors suddenly opened. She instantly lowered her gaze. "You're avoiding me." His voice was calm as always, but beneath it, tension. She stood carefully. "Your Grace." "Walk with me." It was not a request. He led her through the northern corridor while rain battered the palace windows outside. Neither spoke for several moments. Then, unexpectedly, he asked, "Did your father ever teach you how to play chess?" The question caught her off guard. "No." "Mine did." Lucienne stared ahead while walking. "He used to say the most dangerous people are the ones willing to sacrifice their own pieces." His jaw tightened slightly. Eventually I realized he wasn't talking about the game. Isabella studied him quietly. She had spent weeks hearing rumors about the Duke. Cruel, cunning, cold. But nobody ever described this version of him. The exhausted man carrying invisible scars. They reached a private, sitting room overlooking the gardens. Firelight danced across dark wooden walls. A single chessboard rested near the window. Lucian poured wine into 2 glasses. "Sit." She obeyed carefully. He handed her a glass, then watched her fingers instinctively reach for it too accurately. His eyes narrowed slightly. She realized her mistake immediately. A blind woman should have searched for the glass first. Her heartbeat stumbled, but Lucienne simply sat opposite her. "Tell me something honestly, Isabella." Hearing her first name from him felt strangely intimate. "Do you believe people are born evil?" She hesitated. "No." "Interesting." He leaned back slowly. "I used to believe that too." Silence settled between them. Rain echoed against the windows. Then he asked quietly, "What happened to your father?" Her chest tightened instantly. She kept her expression controlled. "Debt ruined him." "That isn't what I asked." His gaze remained fixed on her. She swallowed carefully. "He died. And you came to Ravenshire Palace searching for answers." Her blood froze. The room suddenly felt smaller. She forced herself calm. "I don't understand." Lucienne almost smiled. But there was no warmth in it. "You're a terrible liar." Before she could respond, a loud crash echoed somewhere downstairs. Then shouting. Lucienne stood instantly. "Stay here." But Isabella followed the moment he left. The palace had erupted into chaos again. Servants ran through corridors while guards stormed toward the western wing. "Fire!" someone shouted. "The West Archives are burning." Smoke spread rapidly through the hallways. Isabella's heart pounded. The West Archives contained older palace records. If someone wanted evidence destroyed, this was no accident. She rushed against the crowd toward the smoke. Guards tried stopping servants from entering, but panic made everything chaotic. She slipped past unnoticed. The Western Archive chamber glowed with flames. Burning paper filled the air. Shelves collapsed while smoke swallowed the ceiling. Isabella covered her mouth desperately, searching through scattered documents. Then she saw it, a partially burned ledger near the floor. She grabbed it quickly. But before escaping, a wooden beam crashed nearby, blocking the doorway. Fire exploded upward. Her pulse spiked. She turned, searching desperately for another exit. The smoke thickened fast. She coughed violently. Then suddenly, strong hands grabbed her waist. She gasped. "Lucienne, have you completely lost your mind?" His voice cracked with anger. He pulled her through smoke while flames spread around them. They barely escaped before the ceiling collapsed behind them. Isabella collapsed into the corridor, coughing violently. Lucienne knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders hard. "You could have died." For the first time since meeting him, his composure shattered. Real fear filled his eyes, not annoyance, not suspicion. Fear. She stared at him, stunned. His hands remained on her face longer than necessary. Then slowly, he noticed something. Her eyes, they were focused directly on him. Not wandering, not unfocused. Realization flashed across his expression. The world stopped. Isabella immediately looked away. But too late, silence swallowed the corridor. Lucien's voice became dangerously quiet. "You can see." Not a question. A fact. Her throat tightened. She considered lying again. But exhaustion finally broke through. Yes. Neither moved. Smoke drifted around them while distant shouting echoed through the palace. But the only thing Isabella could hear was her own heartbeat. Lucien stood slowly, his expression unreadable. How long? 2 years. Why? She laughed bitterly. Because the world is kinder to helpless women than intelligent ones. Something flickered across his face. Pain. Understanding. You lied to everyone inside this palace. So do you. That answer hit him harder than expected. She saw it immediately. His jaw tightened. Then, unexpectedly, he began laughing quietly, not mockingly, almost impressed. "You are either incredibly brave," he murmured, "or catastrophically foolish. Probably both." For the first time, Lucien genuinely smiled. It changed him completely. The cold duke disappeared for one brief moment, revealing the man buried beneath, and that terrified Isabella more than his anger ever could, because now she understood the real danger. She was falling for him. Then suddenly his expression darkened again. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Someone set that fire intentionally. To destroy records. Yes, his eyes locked onto hers. And now whoever did it knows you survived. A chill crawled through her spine. "You think they'll come after me?" "I know they will." Before she could respond, a gunshot exploded through the hallway. Glass shattered beside them. Isabella screamed instinctively. Lucien immediately pulled her down. Another shot rang out. Guards shouted from distant corridors. "Move!" Lucien grabbed her hand and dragged her through servant passages hidden behind the walls. They ran through darkness while footsteps chased somewhere behind them. Isabella struggled to breathe. "Who's trying to kill me?" Lucien's expression hardened. "The same people who killed your father." Her entire body froze, but there was no time to think. He pushed open a hidden door leading into an abandoned chapel beneath the palace. Dust covered ancient wooden pews. Candlelight flickered weakly from forgotten altars. The room felt frozen in time. Lucien locked the door behind them, then finally turned toward her. "Your father discovered something powerful men wanted buried." His voice lowered. "Lord Beaumont was involved, but he wasn't the mastermind." "Then who is?" Lucien remained silent too long. And suddenly Isabella realized something horrifying. He knew. He had known all along. Before she could speak, footsteps echoed outside the chapel. Someone else was down there. Lucien extinguished the candle instantly. Darkness swallowed them. He pulled Isabella against him instinctively. She felt his heartbeat against her chest. Fast, unsteady, the footsteps grew closer, then stopped directly outside the chapel door. Someone whispered from the other side, "Your Grace." Lucian's entire body went rigid because he recognized the voice, and whatever expression crossed his face in that darkness terrified him more than death itself. If this story has you hooked already, subscribe to Candlelit Vows and comment "She Can See" below. The next part reveals the truth about Seraphina, the hidden tunnels beneath Ravenshire Palace, and the betrayal Lucian never saw coming. The chapel remained completely silent. Not even the storm outside could be heard anymore. Isabella stood pressed against Lucian's chest, while footsteps lingered outside the wooden door. Then came the voice again. Calm, familiar. "Your Grace, I know you're inside." Lucian's body stiffened beside her. She could feel tension radiating through him like heat. His hand slowly moved toward the pistol hidden beneath his coat. Isabella whispered carefully, "Who is it?" His answer barely reached her ears. "My brother." A cold wave passed through her spine. She had never heard anyone mention Lucian having family. He kept his private life buried deeper than palace secrets. The voice outside chuckled softly. "You always were dramatic, Lucien." Then silence again. Before suddenly, the chapel door opened slowly. A man stepped inside carrying a lantern. He looked almost identical to Lucien. Same sharp jaw, same dark eyes. But where Lucian carried controlled restraint, this man carried chaos. There was something unsettling about his smile. "Good evening," he said casually. His gaze shifted toward Isabella. "So this is the girl." Lucien moved protectively in front of her immediately. "Leave." The man laughed quietly. "Still protecting people you cannot save?" Isabella studied him carefully. His clothes were expensive but careless, his expression charming but dangerous. He walked closer slowly. "You've been difficult to find, brother." Lucian's voice hardened. "You were supposed to remain abroad. And miss all this." He gestured playfully. "Murders, fires, secret girls pretending to be blind. Ravenshire Palace has become entertaining again." Isabella's pulse quickened. He knew about her too. "Who are you?" she asked finally. The man smiled directly at her. "Cassian Ravenshire." The name hit like thunder. She had heard servants whisper it once before. The younger Ravenshire brother, exiled years ago after a violent scandal. Some claimed gambling, others claimed murder. One maid swore Cassian once stabbed a nobleman during a card game and laughed while doing it. He bowed slightly. "A pleasure, Miss Whitmore." Lucian stepped forward coldly. "You need to leave." But Cassian ignored him entirely. His eyes remained fixed on Isabella. "You know, I was beginning to think Lucian had finally lost his humanity." He smirked. "Then suddenly he risks his life rescuing a girl from a fire." Isabella glanced toward Lucien briefly. She noticed something strange. He looked angry. Yes, but beneath the anger, fear. Real fear. Cassian noticed it too. "There it is," he whispered, almost delighted. "The famous Ravenshire weakness." "Enough," Lucien snapped. The chapel fell silent. Cassian slowly raised both hands. "Relax, brother. I didn't come to hurt her." His expression darkened slightly. "At least not tonight." Before Isabella could react, Lucian grabbed Cassian violently by the collar and slammed him against the wall. "If you involve her," his voice shook with fury, "I will kill you myself." Cassian stared at him for several seconds. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. There he is. The smile vanished from Lucian's face instantly. He released him slowly. Cassian adjusted his coat calmly before turning toward Isabella. "Your father was a decent man, you know." Her heart stopped. "You knew my father?" Everyone involved in this mess knew your father. His eyes sharpened. He just happened to discover something he should not have. What? She demanded. Cassian looked toward Lucienne before answering. Ask the Duke. Then he walked toward the chapel door. Before leaving, he paused. Oh, and Isabella? She froze hearing her name. The woman Lucienne loved did not kill herself. Then he disappeared into darkness. The chapel suddenly felt colder. Isabella turned slowly toward Lucienne. His face had gone pale. What does he mean? Lucienne remained silent. Lucienne, her voice cracked slightly. What happened to Serafina? For several moments he said nothing. Then finally, he sat heavily onto one of the old wooden pews, looking suddenly exhausted. Not like a duke, not like a feared ruler, just a broken man. She was murdered. The words echoed through the chapel. Isabella stared at him, stunned. By who? His jaw tightened painfully. I don't know. You expect me to believe that? I buried her myself. Pain flashed across his eyes, so raw it almost hurt to witness. I held her while she died. Silence swallowed the room. Isabella slowly sat beside him. He stared ahead at nothing. Serafina discovered financial corruption involving noble families, blackmail, illegal trades, human trafficking through royal shipping routes. His voice darkened. Your father discovered the same network years later. A sick feeling twisted inside Isabella's stomach. And the people responsible killed them both. Yes. Lucienne finally looked at her, including anyone else who gets too close. Her breathing became uneven. Then why protect me? That question lingered between them too long. Lucienne looked away first. Because I failed to protect her. The confession shattered something inside her. She realized then that Lucian Ravenshire was not haunted by cruelty. He was haunted by guilt, the kind that destroyed people slowly from the inside. And suddenly she understood why the palace felt cursed. Grief lived inside these walls. The storm outside intensified. Thunder shook the chapel windows. Then Isabella noticed blood dripping from Lucienne's hand. You're injured. It's nothing. But she grabbed his wrist gently before he could pull away. The cut along his palm was deep. She tore part of her sleeve, carefully wrapping it. His eyes remained fixed on her the entire time. You shouldn't care about me, he murmured softly. That's unfortunate, she whispered before thinking. Because I do. The words stunned both of them. Silence followed. He slowly lifted his uninjured hand, touching her cheek carefully, as though afraid she might disappear. The tension between them became unbearable. Months of suspicion, secrets, grief, longing, all collapsing into one moment. Then, suddenly, footsteps echoed outside again. Both stood instantly. Guards this time, one voice shouted from the corridor. Your Grace, the Queen's men have arrived, Lucian cursed under his breath. Isabella frowned. The Queen. She sent investigators after Beaumont's death. His expression hardened dangerously. Which means the palace is no longer under my control, another voice echoed outside. Open the door immediately. Lucian grabbed Isabella's hand quickly. There's another exit. He pulled her toward hidden stairs behind the altar. They descended into underground tunnels beneath Ravenshire Palace. The air smelled damp and ancient. Isabella struggled to keep pace while lantern light flickered across stone walls. Where do these tunnels lead? Everywhere, Lucian answered. They were built during the war centuries ago. As they moved deeper underground, Isabella noticed old symbols carved into the walls. One symbol stopped her instantly. A black raven, the same mark left beside Beaumont's corpse. She touched it carefully. This symbol, what does it mean? Lucienne's face darkened. It's the mark of an organization called the Hollow Crown. Who are they? Powerful men hiding behind noble titles. His voice became colder with every word. Judges, politicians, military officials, royals. Her stomach twisted. And they killed my father. Yes, he looked directly at her, because he threatened to expose them. Then suddenly distant voices echoed through the tunnels. They were being followed. Lucian extinguished the lantern immediately. Darkness swallowed them again. He pulled Isabella into a narrow alcove hidden within the stone wall. She could barely breathe. The footsteps grew louder, closer. Then she heard one sentence that turned her blood cold. Find the girl first, not Lucienne. Her. They wanted her dead. The footsteps slowly faded deeper into the tunnels. Isabella's hands trembled slightly. Lucienne noticed. He gently held them. Listen to me carefully. His voice softened. From this moment onward, you stay beside me. She stared into the darkness where his face barely existed. Why? His fingers tightened around hers. Because the moment they realize I love you, he paused painfully. You become their favorite target. Her heartbeat stopped, and for the first time since entering Ravenshire Palace, Lucian Ravenshire finally admitted the truth he had been trying to bury. Before we reach the final chapter of tonight's story, subscribe to Candlelit Vows and leave a comment telling me one thing. Do you think love can survive when trust is built on lies? And if you've stayed with Isabella and Lucian this far, thank you. Now let's finish the story. The tunnels beneath Ravenshire Palace stretched endlessly beneath the earth, like veins carrying old sins. Isabella followed Lucian through darkness while distant footsteps echoed far behind them. Neither spoke for several minutes. His confession still lingered between them. He loves you. The words replayed inside her mind again and again. Part of her wanted to believe him. Another part remembered every dangerous truth she had uncovered. People died around power. Love inside palaces rarely ended happily. And yet, every time Lucian looked at her, she saw a man silently begging for redemption. They finally reached a hidden exit leading into the abandoned chapel cemetery outside. Cold rain greeted them instantly. The storm had worsened. Lightning split across the sky while wind tore through dead trees. Lucian removed his coat and placed it over her shoulders. We don't have much time, he said quietly. The Queen's investigators will lock down Ravenshire before sunrise. Then we tell them the truth. His expression darkened. You still don't understand who we're fighting. They moved quickly toward an old caretaker cottage hidden near the forest edge. Lucian unlocked the door and guided her inside. The room was small but warm. Firewood still remained beside an ancient stone fireplace. He lit it carefully while Isabella studied him silently. She realized something painful in that moment. He looked exhausted, not physically. Soul-deep exhaustion, the kind carried by people who spent years fighting battles alone. You haven't slept properly in years, have you? She asked softly. He almost smiled. You notice too much. Someone has to. For several moments, neither spoke. Then Isabella finally asked the question haunting her. Why didn't you tell anyone the truth about Serafina? Lucienne stared into the fire for a long time before answering. Because I failed her. His voice lowered painfully. The night she died. We argued. Isabella remained silent, listening. She wanted to expose the hollow crown publicly. I told her to wait. His jaw tightened. I thought I could protect her quietly. A bitter laugh escaped him. 3 days later, they poisoned her. Pain filled the room so heavily Isabella could almost touch it. Lucian continued staring at the flames. She died believing I betrayed her. You don't know that. I saw it in her eyes. His voice cracked for the first time. That fear, that disappointment. Silence swallowed the cottage. Then Isabella slowly moved beside him. She reached for his hand carefully. What happened to Serafina was not your fault. Lucien looked at her then, truly looked at her, and suddenly the distance between them disappeared. He touched her face gently, like a man terrified she might vanish too. Then he kissed her, slowly, carefully. Not like a duke claiming ownership, not like a powerful man taking what he wanted, but like someone starving for warmth after years in darkness. Isabella closed her eyes, feeling every wall inside her collapse. She should have resisted. She should have remembered danger. But grief and loneliness have a way of making people reckless. And in that moment, they were no longer duke and servant, no longer investigator and suspect. Just two broken people desperate not to feel alone anymore. But peace inside Ravenshire Palace never lasted. A loud knock exploded against the cottage door. Both froze. Instantly, Lucien drew his pistol. "Your Grace!" a guard shouted outside. "They found us." Lucien cursed quietly. He opened the door carefully. A wounded palace guard stumbled inside, bleeding heavily. "The investigators!" The guard gasped. "They're arresting everyone." Lucien frowned. "Why?" The guard's expression turned pale. "Because someone accused you of Beaumont's murder." Isabella's stomach dropped. "Who?" The guard hesitated. Then quietly, "Cassian Ravenshire." Lucien closed his eyes briefly as though expecting it. "Of course," the guard continued desperately. "The Queen's men already seized palace documents. They're searching for Miss Whitmore too." "Then we leave now," Isabella said immediately. But Lucienne remained still. She noticed the shift in his expression instantly. Calculation, sacrifice. "No," he said quietly. She frowned. "What?" "Running confirms guilt. They're trying to kill us." "No." His gaze hardened. "They're trying to silence the truth." He turned toward the guard. "Prepare the ballroom." The guard blinked in confusion. "Your Grace?" "Invite every investigator, every noble still inside Ravenshire, every servant." His voice became cold steel again. "Tonight, we end this." 2 hours later, Ravenshire Palace blazed with candlelight once more. The grand ballroom overflowed with nobles whispering nervously while armed investigators lined the walls. Isabella stood hidden above the balcony watching chaos unfold. Her heart pounded violently. This felt less like a gathering and more like an execution. Then the ballroom doors opened. Lucien entered alone. Instant silence followed. He walked through the crowd, calmly dressed entirely in black. No fear, no hesitation. The investigators stepped forward immediately. "Duke Lucien Ravenshire," one announced. "You stand accused of conspiracy and murder." Whispers exploded across the ballroom. Lucien remained expressionless. "Do I?" Then another voice echoed from the staircase. "Yes, brother, you do." Cassian descended slowly, smiling before the crowd. Isabella's pulse quickened. He looked perfectly composed. Charming, deadly. "Such a tragic situation," Cassian continued dramatically. "A grieving duke driven mad by obsession." Lucien stared at him coldly. "You always did enjoy performing." Cassian smirked. Then suddenly his eyes lifted toward the balcony where Isabella hid. Her blood turned cold. He knew she was there. "Bring the girl," Cassian ordered instantly. Guards rushed upstairs. Isabella ran immediately through servant corridors while panic erupted below. She heard footsteps chasing closer. She turned sharply into the gallery hall only to stop abruptly. Someone blocked the path. The Queen's lead investigator, a woman dressed in silver military uniform. She studied Isabella carefully. "Miss Whitmore." Isabella stepped backward cautiously. "You're here to arrest me." "No," the woman lowered her voice. "I'm here because Serafina was my sister." Everything stopped. The investigator's eyes filled with restrained anger. Lucian tried warning us years ago. We didn't listen. She handed Isabella a sealed envelope quickly. This contains every surviving name connected to the Hollow Crown. Isabella stared at her, stunned. Why help me? Because if Lucian fails tonight... The woman's voice hardened. Everyone inside that ballroom dies. Before Isabella could respond, gunshots exploded downstairs. Screams followed. She ran toward the balcony overlooking the ballroom below. Absolute chaos. People running, guards firing, Cassian standing near the center smiling like a madman, and Lucien fighting through armed men trying to reach him. Then Isabella saw it, a sniper hidden above the chandelier, aimed directly at Lucien. Without thinking, she screamed, "Lucien!" He looked up instantly. The shot fired. The world slowed. Isabella watched Lucien turn just enough for the bullet to strike his shoulder instead of his heart. He collapsed. The ballroom erupted into panic. Isabella ran downstairs desperately. She reached him as guards restrained Cassian nearby. Blood soaked Lucian's coat rapidly. His breathing became uneven. "Stay with me," she whispered, shaking. Cassian laughed wildly while being dragged away. "Look at you both." His smile turned cruel. "Still believing love saves people." Lucian struggled painfully, trying to stand. "Take him away." Cassian's laughter echoed through the ballroom until the doors slammed shut. Then silence. Isabella held Lucian against her while nobles watched in stunned disbelief. He touched her cheek weakly. "You should leave Ravenshire." Tears filled her eyes instantly. "No, they'll come after you next." "Then let them," her voice broke. "I'm not abandoning you." Something fragile softened inside him. Then finally, after years of grief and guilt and silence, Lucien Ravenshire allowed himself to stop pretending he could survive alone. Months later, the palace felt different. Lighter, the investigations destroyed the Hollow Crown. Noble families fell. Public trials shook the kingdom. Corruption hidden for decades finally surfaced, and for the first time in years, Ravenshire Palace no longer felt haunted. Isabella stood beside the northern gardens, watching snow fall softly across the courtyard. She heard familiar footsteps behind her. "You're thinking too loudly again," Lucien murmured. She smiled faintly. "Bad habit." He stepped beside her. His injured shoulder had healed slowly, but the scar remained. She touched it gently. "Does it still hurt?" "Sometimes." His eyes remained on her. "But not as much as before." Silence settled peacefully between them. Then Lucien reached into his coat, removing a small velvet box. Isabella's breath caught. He opened it slowly, revealing Seraphina's ring. "She once told me something before she died," he said quietly. "She said love only matters when it survives the truth." His voice softened. "You saw the worst parts of me, and stayed anyway." Tears filled Isabella's eyes. He took her hand carefully. No more lies, no more pretending. Then finally, the feared Duke of Ravenshire knelt before the woman who taught him how to live again. "Isabella Whitmore, will you stay?" She laughed through tears before whispering the only answer that ever truly mattered. "Yes." And somewhere beyond the palace walls, winter finally began to end. Thank you for listening to tonight's story on Candlelit Vows.